Sometimes you look around and wonder why everything seems easier for other people. They move forward, reach their goals, and keep making progress while you feel like you are constantly struggling to keep up. After a while, it becomes difficult not to question yourself. You begin to wonder whether you are doing something wrong. Maybe you are not disciplined enough. Maybe you are not motivated enough. Maybe you simply are not capable enough. But there is another possibility that most people never consider. What if you're comparing your progress without comparing your burden? What if the reason things feel harder is because you're carrying far more weight than you realize? Two people can walk the same road and travel very different distances, not because one is stronger than the other, but because one of them is carrying something the other is not. Some people carry years of disappointment. Some carry anxiety that never completely disappears. Some carry responsibilities that follow them everywhere they go. Others carry wounds that healed on the outside but never fully healed within. From a distance, none of this is visible. People see the result. They see how fast you move. They see where you are. They rarely see what you had to carry to get there. That is why comparison becomes so dangerous. It compares outcomes while ignoring circumstances. It compares speed while ignoring weight. Imagine watching two people climb the same mountain. One carries only what they need for the day. The other carries a heavy backpack filled with things they never chose to carry. Nobody would expect them to climb at the same pace. Yet this is exactly what we do to ourselves. We compare our lives to people whose struggles we do not know. We compare our progress to people carrying a completely different load. The result is predictable. We begin to feel behind. We begin to feel inadequate. We begin to believe that everyone else has figured something out that we somehow missed. Over time, that belief becomes exhausting. It follows us through work, relationships, personal goals, and even the way we see ourselves. No matter what we achieve, it never feels like enough. The truth is that some people are fighting battles nobody can see. They wake up carrying stress, uncertainty, grief, fear, or responsibilities that never truly leave them. Every step forward requires effort that remains invisible to everyone else. And because nobody sees it, they often stop seeing it themselves. They become so accustomed to carrying the weight that they forget it is there. They only notice that progress feels harder than it should. Then they blame themselves for struggling. They call themselves lazy, they call themselves weak, they convince themselves that if they were stronger, everything would be easier. But strength is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes strength is simply continuing when life gives you every reason to stop. Sometimes strength looks like getting out of bed when your mind is exhausted. Sometimes it looks like showing up for people when you barely have energy for yourself. Sometimes it looks like taking one more step when nobody would blame you for standing still. The world celebrates visible success. Promotions, achievements, milestones, and victories attract attention. Quiet endurance rarely does. Yet quiet endurance may be one of the most impressive forms of strength that exist. There are people carrying burdens every day that would completely overwhelm someone else. Still, they continue moving forward. Not quickly, not perfectly, but they continue. And perhaps that deserves more respect than we usually give it. The problem is that many people measure themselves using the wrong standard. They judge themselves by speed instead of resilience. They focus on distance instead of difficulty. But progress is not only about how far you have gone, it is also about what you had to overcome to get there. A single step taken under a heavy load can require more courage than 100 easy steps taken without resistance. The effort matters. The burden matters. The context matters. That does not mean you stop growing. It does not mean you lower every expectation. It simply means you stop pretending your circumstances do not exist. You begin to judge yourself honestly, not harshly, not unfairly, honestly. You acknowledge what you are carrying. You recognize the battles that never appear on the surface. You give yourself credit for surviving things that nobody else even noticed. Something changes when you do that. The constant feeling of being behind begins to lose its power. Comparison becomes less convincing. Self-respect begins to grow. You realize that maybe you were never failing. Maybe you were simply carrying more than you admitted. Maybe the reason everything felt harder was because it actually was harder. And maybe the fact that you are still moving forward is far more remarkable than you ever allowed yourself to believe. Because some people are not moving slowly. They're carrying a weight nobody can see. And the fact that they continue anyway may be one of the strongest things they will ever do.